Second video for section 2.5 starts off with parallel and perpendicular lines. So I hope you remember from your other math classes, if you have two lines that are parallel, they have the exact same slope. So parallel lines, same slope. If you have two lines that are perpendicular, then their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So a negative reciprocal, negative means change the sign and reciprocal means flip it. So if one line has a slope of 1/3 and you want a line that's perpendicular to that, you would use a slope of negative, and then if you flip it, it'd be 3/1. So positive 1/3 and negative 3 are negative reciprocals. Negative means I change the sign, reciprocal means I flip it. If one of my lines had a slope of negative 2/3, and I wanted a line that was perpendicular to it, I would need a slope that's a negative reciprocal of negative 2/3. So I would change the sign and I would flip it, so it would be positive 3/2. So here's an example. I'm supposed to write an equation in both slope-intercept and standard form. So like I said, be careful on your homework, read your directions, of a line that passes through this point and is parallel to this line. Okay, parallel means the same slope. So I need to figure out the slope of this line, and I'm going to use that same exact slope in my new equation. So to find the slope of this line, I'm going to get y by itself, because if I get it in y equals mx plus b, I can tell what the slope is. So if I get y by itself, I want to keep that 5y there. I want to move that 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x to the other side. Now I need to divide everything by 5. So once I get it in the form y equals mx plus b, I can tell that my slope is negative 2/5. So I did all of that just to find my slope. So now I'm going to write an equation. Now that I know my slope is 2/5, and my point that they give me is 3/5. So I'm going to use point slope form. And I'm going to plug in negative 2/5 for m, and I'm going to plug in my point 3/5 for x1 and y1. Now in the problem, it told me that they wanted my answer in slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. So you could distribute 2/5 if you want. That's perfectly fine. Or you could get rid of that fraction by multiplying both sides by 5. I don't care what you do first. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the fraction. So if I multiply both sides by 5, because that was in the denominator of my fraction, on the right-hand side, the 5's cancel. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to distribute a 5, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to distribute a negative 2. I'm trying to get y by itself, so I'm going to add 25 to both sides. And now I'm going to divide by 5. So there's your answer in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2/5 x plus 31/5. They also asked for standard form, which if you remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. So once again, if you don't want to deal with these fractions, we can multiply both sides by 5. If I multiply both sides, on the right-hand side, when you distribute that 5, it's going to cancel out both of those denominators. Now I don't have any more fractions. And in standard form, it's ax plus by equals c, so I want this x on the other side. So I'm going to move the 2x to the other side. So if I add that 2x over, I'll get 2x plus 5y equals 31. So now I have both slope-intercept and standard form. Okay, part B, it's the same kind of thing, but instead of a parallel line, this one's perpendicular. So it's the same point and it's the same original line, but this time I want to write an equation of a line that's perpendicular. So I have to use the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so this was the same line we used earlier in part A of this problem, and we found the slope to be negative 2/5. So if I want a line that's perpendicular to that, I need the negative reciprocal of negative 2/5. Negative means I change the sign, reciprocal means I flip it. So for my equation, I'm going to use a slope of positive 5/2. And once again, it says slope-intercept form and standard form. So I have my slope, I have my point. I'm going to use point-slope form. So I wrote down point-slope form. I'm going to plug in 5/2 for m, and 3 and 5 go in for x1, y1. Okay, so from here, the first one asks for slope-intercept form, so I need to get y by itself. So you can either distribute your 5/2, you could do it that way, or if you want to get rid of that fraction, you can multiply both sides by 2. I don't care which way you do it, but you got to get y by itself. I went ahead and multiplied both sides by 2. That got rid of my fraction. So now on the left-hand side, I have to distribute a 2, and on the right-hand side, I have to distribute a 5. Now I'm just solving for y, so now I need to add 10 to both sides, and then divide everything by 2. So here's your slope-intercept form. And then if you want standard form, remember that's ax plus by equals c, so I need to rearrange it again. And if you don't like those fractions, we can multiply both sides by 2 again. That'll get rid of those fractions. I multiplied both sides by 2, and then I'm trying to get ax plus by equals c, so I'm going to move my 5x to the other side. So if I subtract 5x to the other side, I'll get negative 5x plus 2y equals negative 5. I hope MyLab lets you put that in there. If they want the a to be positive, and right now my a is negative 5, you could multiply everything by negative 1. So just change all your signs. So you could also make it positive 5x minus 2y equals positive 5. Okay, last example. Pause the video, read that, and I'll show you a graph in just a second. Okay, so if you read that, it said that year 0 represented the year 2005, and the average cost of a college was $5,492. And then that means the 5 would represent 2010, where the average cost was $7,605. And our job is to find an equation that models that data. So I'm going to find the slope. I'm going to use these 2 points. I'm going to find the slope y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so if I use that slope formula, I get my slope to be about 422.6. So my slope is positive 422.6. So in this specific situation, that's telling me that tuition is going up by almost $423 per year. Okay, but in part A, it asked me to write an equation. So I'm just going to do y equals mx plus b. I know my m is 422.6 plus y equals mx plus b. B is my y-intercept. My y-intercept is where it hits the y-axis, so right here at 5,492. So there's my equation right there that represents these data points right here. So then in part B, we're going to use that equation that we just found to predict the cost of tuition and fees in 2012. Okay, so I wrote down our equation that we found in part A, and we're going to use that to predict the cost in 2012. So they told us a couple slides back that 0 represented the year 2005, so this would be 2006, etc. So to get to 2012, x would be 7. 7 represents 2012. So I'm going to plug a 7 in for x. Okay, so if I plug a 7 in, that's 7 years from 2005, so 2012. If I plug a 7 in, I'll get $8,450.20. That's going to be my prediction for the cost of tuition in 2012. And MyLab, just read the directions. It'll probably say round to the nearest whole dollar. So it'll probably just be $8,450 in the year 2012.